Hey, my name is Vip Vipperman. Excited to have a guest with us today on the Eagle Venture podcast. Looking forward to hearing from my friend Noel Thomas about his work at Darkwatch. Noel, welcome to the pod.
Hey, thanks, Fit, for having me on today.
Yeah, buddy. It's been fun getting to know you and the team over the last couple years, and looking forward to hearing a little bit more of the backstory, some of the things that are going on right now, and what you see coming in the future. So let's dive right in. Noel, tell me a little bit about your story. I know there's some just fascinating things that have happened over the years that got you into this field, and I'd love to hear a little bit more so our listeners can hear.
Yeah, so I say that this passion for fighting human trafficking started as a child. Our family was walking in this indoor market, and my sister was about 4 years old at the time. And my dad kind of got distracted by this lady, and when he looked down, he saw that my sister was gone. So thankfully, I believe the Holy Spirit led him to go to the exit of this building. And when he got to the exit of this building, a man we didn't know was walking out the door with my sister. And so that left a huge impression on me as a child. Fast forward, I was on the mission field and eventually went to New Delhi to see human trafficking firsthand. While I was there, I saw this 14-year-old girl that was being trafficked right above a police station. And I remember in that moment that I was just staring at this and thinking, okay, this girl's parents probably sold her into slavery out of desperation. And the one person you would think that is there to protect her is actually helping facilitate the sale.
Oh,
And so that quote, by Edmund Burke struck me that all it takes for evil to prevail is for good men to do nothing. And so that set this lifetime passion in motion about 15 years ago. Fast forward, I become the statewide anti human trafficking coordinator in Florida. I actually go out on raids. And when I go out on one of these raids at a hotel, um, the front desk had tipped off to law enforcement that this raid was going down. And so when we got to the room, we found this girl, and we could see the trafficker's shoes and his jacket and his hat. But he was tipped off and gone, and this girl just wanted to go home. So we helped reunite her with her parents. But it was in this moment, working with law enforcement and going out on these raids and coordinating these task forces, that I realized that there wasn't a lot of technology to disrupt human trafficking at scale. And that's where the genesis for this idea of what is now Darkwatch started to begin. And so from there, we started building technology platforms that supported law enforcement and the Department of Defense and major federal agencies who wanted to fight human trafficking. And that was kind of our foray into building a technology company that later would become venture backed by Eagle and other venture capitalists.
wow. I mean, it's a crazy story that got you into this place in the first place, and amazing how you've seen trafficking firsthand. Um, unfortunately, if I'm not mistaken, your sister was actually recovered quickly, and actually the people were not able to take her away.
That's right.
Thankful that your dad was able to make the right move and just have discernment to jump in there at the beginning. It's so sad that the police department wasn't doing anything in that small city in India. Um, they were facilitating the problem instead of actually helping. It just goes to show like how bad the situation is and how vulnerable people are around the world. Um, these days, your work continues to focus on human trafficking and just some of the people in it. What was the problem that you saw that specifically caused you to create this technology?
I was noticing that there isn't any technology that can disrupt human trafficking at scale. So we all know that there's 50 million people enslaved around the world. Latest estimates are $230 billion illicit industry funding cartels and terrorism and organized crime that are often behind this industry of human trafficking. And working on the government side and being part of the rehabilitation process, there were so many challenges with that, and it was tough to see a rescue after a raid, only to see that that girl ended up running right back to the trafficker a week later and was, brutalized by this trafficker. And I thought there's got to be a better model to fighting slavery. And that if we're going to make a difference and actually change the numbers from 50 million and get that curve to flip down, then we have to have the technology that cuts this off at the source and that starts going after the industry of slavery, and not just providing a one off solution.
When you say industry of slavery, what are we talking about?
So $230 billion a year. And if you think about it, human trafficking is becoming the largest illicit crime in the world. And the reason is very simple. You can sell cocaine or drugs one time, but you could sell a victim of trafficking up to 20 times per day. So it's incredibly lucrative. And because a lot of our focus has been the war on drugs or the war on terror, we haven't had a war on human trafficking. There's the least amount of resources to actually respond to this problem. And so this has created a huge economic opportunity, this business of slavery. In addition to that, 30 different industries are touched by human trafficking. That's everything from transportation and agriculture and hospitality, banking and finance, social media, just to name a few. And when you start to kind of peel back all of these connected industries, these industries are oftentimes unknowingly facilitating this type of crime. And so, where we saw the opportunity, at least commercially, was to provide these solutions to industry and these various industries to have a defense against human trafficking. Because in reality, no brand wants to be the brand known as the brand of human traffickers, right? And there's been enough headlines and litigation around this. And so you're seeing this real shift in the market where brands are becoming much more proactive in their response to human trafficking and these kind of other bad things that can happen within their business. And that's a pretty cool thing to see because that's a huge step in defeating this industry of human trafficking.
Wow. Well, tell us a little bit about the solution itself. What is it that you're actually doing, and how is technology at play?
Yeah, so that's been the greatest part of this is that we've brought some of the best minds from the intelligence community, from law enforcement, from individuals that have worked global security, AI specialists that have all come together and said, how can we create an end-to-end system that allows our partners to see this catastrophic risk, human trafficking being one of those main categories, but other catastrophic risk around violence and the really scary things that keep these brands up at night. And so we've built a patent pending proprietary risk fusion engine that goes out and collects all of this information on the clear web, on the dark web, compiles it and sense makes it. And then we've built a proprietary risk scoring algorithm that goes on top of this. And the idea is that we can help these brands detect this activity very quickly, triage it, respond, and collaborate together to level up. And we think that the nature of this tool is going to revolutionize the safety for these brands and also start to transform that number of 50 million and start shifting it down because this is the technology that can disrupt human trafficking at scale.
Nice. I love to hear going down. We've heard numbers from friends as many as 25,000 people a day are getting into labor trafficking, sex trafficking, or like exploitation. That someone is putting them in those positions. And so with numbers going up daily that fast, it's just it feels almost impossible to do anything, to make a significant impact. And yet, it's fun to hear that there's uh, projects and products being made that can actually put a dent in this number and actually maybe turn the tide one day so that it's going down that day instead of consistently going back up. That's awesome to hear. Well, tell us about the impact that you're having. You've been working for a couple of years on the software. You've had conversations with lots of different brands. I remember, us connecting with Southwest. Getting into conversations with other brands. What does it look like? How are brands responding? And who's taking action?
Oh, it's been absolutely incredible. And if you think about it, the reason is that there's so much that can be done with the power of AI. And we hear about all of the negative effects of AI, but we rarely hear about the good side of AI. What these brands are seeing is that there's the opportunity to add efficiency to their workflows, to save time. When they've got limited resources to address human trafficking or these other bad things, the AI that Darkwatch provides can amplify those workflows and allow them to process this information at scale. So the first thing that they're seeing is a revolution in the way that they look at detecting these problems and responding to them. But to give you some practical stories from the impact that this tool has made is we worked with this very large bank and we provided them the illicit massage brothel data that we have, which is one of many threat categories that we collect on. So we provided this information to the bank, and they were surprised to find there was 50 matches in account holders that they had. And they said, okay, we've got these matches, but now we have to go out and actually do a site visit to one of these places to confirm that the activity is going there because the threshold to responding to the problem is so high. But that's where Darkwatch comes in with the high fidelity intelligence and risk fusion engine is that it provides this information that they can go out and actually do something about. So they did a site visit on one of these places, and when they got there, they found that there was beds and women living in this facility, and they were just totally blown away. So we started asking, what is kind of the value of this risk that we prevented for your institution? And another regional bank said that basically one instance of this would cost us $1 million in headline risk, litigation, or fines. 50 were found just at one institution. And so when you start thinking about the impact that this has on their risk portfolio, it's a no-brainer to pull the Darkwatch solution in. If we could save you over $50 million in risk, whatever you pay for the Darkwatch system is going to be a fraction of that risk portfolio. And that's the way that they're thinking about it, as well as they're becoming more engaged in wanting to do the right thing. There's a lot of people that are in these institutions that are believers and that care about fighting human trafficking. And so you're seeing that they're becoming the champions and advocates in addition to how this issue affects the bottom line of the business. It's how can our brand actually be a community beacon and do the right thing on behalf of fighting human trafficking. And so that's kind of been a cool transition that we're seeing with our customers in the market right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one of the things that you said, so, company uses the product or they want to test the product the first time. The bank goes and looks and they find these 50 occurrences and they're like, wow, you save us, $1 million per occurrence. We'll say you've discovered like all these, we'll say victims, who are like in location, who need help, who become survivors, assumingly like after the fact, you get law enforcement to help, some local or volunteer organizations to support them and help them get into rescue home, type of scenarios. Um, but so how does that work ongoing? Do they do a check every quarter, every 6 months to kind of go back in? Because I mean, assumingly the bad guys aren't just doing it one time until they're caught. they're probably going to come back in and test. So is the company, is that data like ongoing checks happening, or is it something they do every 6 months and kind of do a check on it?
They do it monthly at this one institution that we're talking about. And some of our partners are moving to daily because of how valuable this intelligence is.
Yeah, that's amazing. So you've got it actively deployed at banks. What kind of momentum are you seeing in the other industries? Are
So
hotels starting to take action? Have you seen any things in the like the airline industry or kind of those other spaces so far?
absolutely. So we're finding a lot of inbound interest from hospitality and transportation. We started out in the government and banking verticals, and we're quickly seeing that hospitality and transportation could eclipse the work that we were doing both on the government and the banking side. And the reason being is that there's been several pieces of litigation that have dropped over the last 6 months against the hospitality industry for not having any sort of tools to respond to this. And so when you're working with banks, sometimes they'll have some basic screening tools and checks, maybe doesn't necessarily cover human trafficking or light on human trafficking, but they've got some process in place. We're finding that these other industries, they don't even have a process in place. And so when they go to court, they come up empty-handed and kind of throwing their hands up in the air, and it's not worked out really well for them. And so the mindset of transportation, hospitality, and these other industries are dramatically shifting. And so we've been able to make some great partnerships in the hospitality industry to get this out to most of the brands that are out there, and we're starting to kind of build that momentum in the hospitality industry.
Bro, super encouraging, exciting. At Eagle, we often talk about direct impact versus donated impact for companies. Some companies, sell a product or provide a service, and then they give money to support an issue like anti-trafficking or something like that. But there's other companies who get this model of what we refer to as direct impact, where as the flywheel spins, as they make money and the product or service is sold or works, then they're actually having the impact that they want to do. And I just love Darkwatch as an example of that, where every time a bank uses the product, you're actually helping to fight the trafficking industry, and helping to provide opportunities for survivors. So it's encouraging to see and excited. Now, my other question would be, one of the things that Eagle we talk about is, when we first started selling or pitching the Freedom Fund to people, that's invested in Darkwatch, people are like, so you're going to make money on human trafficking? We're like, whoa, 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 whoa. No, we're investing to fight human trafficking. And there's been other areas of, misunderstanding along the way. So I guess my question for you as an entrepreneur, I mean, you've been in this space a while, you've seen human trafficking up close because of your work in the government and that sort of thing, and some time, overseas. What's been really hard though, as an entrepreneur trying to convince people of this story? Um, and then where are places like, or maybe days where you thought, I don't know if this is going to be possible. I know there's definitely moments where we kind of went, 0 for 10, 0 for 20, 0 for 30 on the pitch, when we were just not getting it right and people just weren't understanding initially. And then it suddenly started to click. So what's kind of been hard in the journey, so far?
Well, you mentioned that on the front end, it was certainly this idea of creating a for-profit company. The predecessor of Darkwatch really was one of the first companies to put their flag in the ground and say, hey, we're going to use the wheels of capitalism to stamp out this problem of human trafficking. And part of the mindset was is if we're ever going to put a man on Mars or win the space race, we're not going to do it through charity. And as controversial as that is, the beautiful thing about what you're doing at Eagle and how some of the industry is now starting to even follow Eagle's model is this idea of instead of just giving this money one time to charity, we can now have an exponential impact. So when Dark Watch hits it big, that goes back and allows the fund and the DAFs to use that capital and seed many times over. And so I just love this model. It's in the beginning was very challenging to pitch this idea of, hey, yes, we're going to be a for-profit in the counter trafficking space. But I think over the last 6 months, between what you're doing at Eagle and what the portfolio companies are doing, is it's totally changed this mindset to, we have to actually lean more into for-profit companies and investments, because that's really where the innovation happens, right? Is when venture capital and connected people come behind, founders who have a vision of seeing a world that is slave free. And we've seen this happen so many times, that if you want to change an entire industry, or you want to change the world, it's going to happen through a startup that is backed by the right groups. And so that certainly was a challenge in the beginning, and we did have a very hard time pitching. I would say, similarly in the beginning, everyone was like, "There's what's the business? What's the business that you're creating?" Okay, like, yes, we understand the impact, and now that's just kind of table stakes for the conversation of like, yeah, of course it makes sense that you're building, AI to solve really hard problems. And so I think it's been cool to push through that initial resistance, to now see a lot of excitement from tier one venture capital groups that are saying, "Hey, yeah, we also want to follow the Eagle model, and we also want to now put our brand in the fight against human trafficking." You're also seeing this kind of wave of innovation where AI companies are, like some of the Eagle portfolio companies are bringing this AI that is literally saving lives and helping children get out of exploitation in real situations at hotels. And so it's just awesome to see what was non-existent before and very resistant market change to, hey, this is actually the future, and we're starting to see something very historic unwind and unfold right in front of us.
Dude, I love it. One other question, some folks have asked, I mean, obviously you're doing this commercially, and you're working with like the banks and this kind of thing, but you show up to a space like that one that you referenced before. There's women living there that are potentially being sold for sex or and that type of situation. How does Darkwatch engage with law enforcement at that point? Do you guys give data, sell data to law enforcement, kind of work with them on putting together cases? You show up at a place like that when the bank's checking in on one of their investments, and suddenly you find people. Do you immediately call 911 and be like, "Dude, we just showed up. Here's what's happening." Tell us just a little bit about that space, like the rescue, as it were, of folks that are in these situations.
Yeah, so I mean, it's really interesting. You find that the banks and community members are really invested in seeing, once they know what it is, they're invested in seeing this place get shut down, and and hopefully that there's recovery for the women on the backside. And I think that that's the real opportunity here, is this bridge between law enforcement and commercial markets, where they can share information together on human trafficking and get a synergistic effect. We do help law enforcement. We've worked with law enforcement in the past and helped them build some very serious cases on human trafficking. But I think, the more that this can happen at scale organically between industry and law enforcement, and Darkwatch helping build that bridge through the ATII acquisition, through the summit, through our product alliance, which is bringing these industries together to share information on these bad actors, the better. And I think that that really is the future, is where you get all of these industries that are collaborating together and also with government to shut it down. That's when you start to get this network effect. And as General McChrystal says, it takes a network to defeat a network. And I know that that's one of the things that Eagle preaches is this idea of these dense networks going after this problem. Because the only way that we're going to solve slavery is as one unified front. And so Darkwatch is serving as a piece in the puzzle to help unify the counter trafficking movement. And the work being done at Eagle is a unifier. Some of the other foundations and groups that are in Eagle's orbit are bringing together the best and brightest in the world, as well as industries and law enforcement, to come tackle this issue and then work with the NGOs and nonprofits to provide all of the recovery services and a new life for these individuals as we start to push down the industry of slavery.
Dude, that's awesome. Hey, you mentioned ATII and the acquisition and the upcoming summit. Can you speak for a minute, just a little bit about like why that acquisition, the opportunity that you guys saw there, and then share with us a little bit about the summit and how a listener might be able to get involved or participate?
Absolutely. So the purchase of ATII was strategic, and the vision was to create the largest intelligence sharing network on human trafficking in the world. So ATII, through their summit and their intelligence products and their dark web data and data that they had created this very dense network of law enforcement, banks, NGOs, experts in the field. And so it was that merging and acquisition of ATII with our culture that created a synergistic effect. So now we've got this dense network that we can overlay AI and these proprietary tools. So it was a no-brainer. Philosophically, we were deeply aligned. And this year, this summit is going to be the largest virtual event on counter trafficking in the world. We have a mystery celebrity that will be headlining it. We have a former SEAL Team 6 operator will be there. The CIA star of heroism uh, recipient, and a lot of experts in this field that are from the Eagle Network and Eagle portfolio companies that will be there, as well as others in the industry. And the vision for the summit this year is, yes, we've heard all of the stats, we've heard all the horror stories, and we know that human trafficking is a problem in the United States that we must solve. The vision for this summit is how do we bring that innovation and how do we unify the movement and build channels of collaboration to actually see that happen.
Right.
And so
It's
there's a
time to
real,
turn the tide.
what's that?
It's time to turn the tide.
That's right. It's time to turn the tide. That should be the rally slogan for it. Um,
That's exciting. Can you tell, I mean, just for listeners out there that are participating, what's the website? How do people participate? Obviously, it's virtual, so you don't have to fly in anywhere. You don't have to leave your home. You can, jump in and spend half day, full day listening to the content, but share a little bit about that.
yes, it's followmoneyfightslavery.org. That's where you can learn about the summit for 2025. We're putting out new speakers each week. I think that we've got 25 of the top minds in the counter trafficking movement that are coming. We know that Wes also has a nice feature this year. Scott Donnell will be emceeing it, and a lot of people that we know from the Eagle Network will be talking about it. So it's followmoneyfightslavery.org. We have some great sponsors this year too. So this year, Cash App and Block under Block will be one of the premier sponsors, and we've just found that these big corporations are really interested in putting some of their people to even speak at this conference of what their company is doing to fight slavery, but are interested in joining and helping, build this dense network and rally individuals together. So it's going to be an awesome event, October 6th and 7th. Follow money, fightslavery.org.
Awesome. And for companies who want to deploy Darkwatch technology, who say like, "Hey, I want to see what's going on in our systems and our pipelines, whether it's hospitality, transportation, banking, that sort of thing," they can go to darkwatch.io, if I'm not mistaken, learn a little bit more about you guys, get connected with someone on the team, talk to a former CIA or former military person, and kind of hear exactly, what's going on. You guys will walk them through some of the challenges that they might be facing, some of the things that they might be hearing, and try to keep them out of the Wall Street Journal for all the mistake, all the things that are happening within their systems that just shouldn't be there.
100%. And that's a good point, is really every business that's out there can use Dark Watch not only to see if their customers are a risk to them, but also if their internal people might be a risk to them as well. And so we found a lot of application around that. And one story about why this type of data is so beneficial to these companies is that there was a major hotel brand that didn't do a background check on a janitor, but the janitor had all access to all the rooms in the hotels. And this janitor was a prior felon sex offender and ended up abusing all of these kids that were staying on property. And I think that the payout on this was $40 million just on this one individual's bad behavior. And that's the very real impact that human trafficking or exploitation that's occurring in a business can be. And that's why it's vital that businesses start thinking about their counter trafficking, counter exploitation policy. Even if they don't engage at Darkwatch, is hey, let's round up our executive staff. Let's talk about what our internal policy is and how we're going to respond if and when human trafficking occurs in our business.
It's really sad. I mean, just to hear that that kind of thing can be happening, and the people that obviously own the hotel, like run the shop, if it's private equity business, they don't want that happening in their hotel. The other people who come to the hotel don't want that risk for their children. Nobody wants this to happen. I mean, we always say anti-trafficking is a bipartisan issue. It's not blue, it's not red, it's purple. Nobody thinks it's a good thing except for the traffickers who are making money off of it. So anything we can do to stop and make a difference in this space is an opportunity. Well, close this out. If someone wants to take a next step, again, best thing to do, go to the websites, check out darkwatch.io or followmoneyfightslavery.org. Learn a little bit more about how trafficking could be affecting their company and even their family through the things that they're involved in. Noel, thanks for being a part of the story today. Love the chance for listeners to hear the work that you guys are doing, and excited that our Eagle Freedom Fund investors can be a part of this work. So thanks again, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Vip.